So the sky is falling in Dolphins land for the third time this season. Is there any relief in sight? I know. What's
I'm
going
looking
on,
up.
Dolphins
I'm looking
fans?
up, Perk. It's falling on. It is
It is.
falling.
It's like right. Is it Chicken Little? Who is the sky falling on? Was that Chicken Little?
Chicken
Whoever it
Little.
was.
Chicken Little.
Chicken Little. There we go. Look at me with a nursery rhyme knowledge. Hello, everybody. I'm Chris Perkins. I am your host for this week's edition of Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. I am your South Florida Sun Sentinel Miami Dolphins columnist. That is Dave Hyde, your South Florida Sun Sentinel columnist. Hyde, Panthers are starting tonight. Is that going to take over the good vibe for South Florida? Football is doing well. Is anything going to take the stink off of the Dolphins' start, do you think?
Well, it'll take people's attention away from if you're a South Florida sports fan, absolutely, because you got two really good teams going right now, and you have the Dolphins doing what they do. We'll start here, Perk. You're saying McDaniel shouldn't be back next year, right? What about this year, though? What? I think it's him and Greer look gone next year. I mean, but the question is, what do you do this year? That's my question.
All right,
I'm wrestling with.
That is, see, you're such a professional, Hyde. We are going to get into that today on this week's
I'm
edition
teasing
of
it. I'm teasing us. I'm teasing it.
There we go. There we go. We want to welcome our viewers on YouTube. As always, we invite you to leave a question, comment, or thought on our live chat, the best place to get intelligent Dolphins conversation. We want to remind you that if you miss any part of this show, you can catch the podcast on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. And we would also like to let you know that we would like you to subscribe to our weekly newsletter, The Fins Flash, and you can do that by scanning the QR code that will be shown on your screen. So today we're going to get into a few things, Dave Hyde. One of them is the 1-4 start by the Dolphins appears to be kind of a thing where you say, nah, there's no way, there's no coming back from this. But the 2016 Dolphins started 1-4, and they came back. Can the 2025 Dolphins conjure up similar magic? We are going to talk about that. We're going to talk about changes that need to be made on and off the field for the Dolphins and when these changes need to be made. And then finally, we're going to talk about the front seven, a group that I way overhyped. I way overhyped them. I bought in, and they've been the biggest disappointment on the team so far. So we're going to get into all that. And of course, as usual, we will make our predictions for this week's game. This week, the Dolphins are hosting Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. So you know there's going to be some Tua Herbert comparisons. As we always say on this show, there's an ocean of possibilities. Let's dive in. All right, Dave Hyde, so let's talk. The 1-4 Miami Dolphins. It seems like a lot of people have left this team for dead, and we saw this happen in 2016. Right, yes, I'm one of them also.
I am. I fess up, absolutely.
I'm one of them also. We saw this happen in 2016, though, right? Remember when Jay Ajayi got hot all of a sudden? He had the back-to-back 200-yard games. Then he followed that up with another 100-yard game. And the Dolphins were off and running. They were 1-4. They won 9 of their next 10 games. And all of a sudden, this is a playoff team. And so my question to you is, and not only that, they got to the playoffs playing their backup quarterback, Matt Moore, after Ryan Tannehill sustained a knee injury. I think he missed the last 3 regular season games and the playoff game at Pittsburgh. And so, that playoff game at Pittsburgh, what a frigid day. We rode to Pittsburgh together after, Fort Lauderdale Airport shooting. And so the Fort Lauderdale Airport was closed. I flew out of Fort Myers. But anyway, Hyde, are there any similarities that you see? Could this team, I mean, that 2016 team had Jay Ajayi to lead the way. This team would have had Tyreek Hill to lead the way, but that's not an option any longer. Do you see any similarities here between these two teams?
Well, there are similarities that they're 1-4. Their season was sunk. The difference is Adam Gase didn't want to, but he pivoted on their offensive philosophy from a generally a passing
Yep.
team to all of a sudden they became a physical running team, and they had the people to do it. Um, where does this team pivot? Their offensive line isn't good. Their defense. Let's put the Dolphins' problem into technical football terms. They don't have enough big people.
Yeah.
All right, they just don't have enough big people, especially on the defensive line. Big, experienced people, and so for them to pivot, you need to pivot somewhere to a strength. And where is their strength right now? I'm pressed to find it. They look, HN, Waddle, Waller, they do have good playmakers still. So, but they're right. They're using those. Two is thrown to those when he can, right?
Yep. Yep.
To get to build that 17-0 lead on Sunday. And their defense, don't see a strength there. Just don't see, I don't even know where they go to say, here's where we can, hold the Alamo. The fort closes here. I just don't see the best hope for them is what's happening this Sunday. The Chargers are built on their running game. They have missing their two expensive tackles. Their expensive guard is played limited last Sunday. They're down to two practice squad running backs. So the Dolphins have met their match as far as an offensive run. They could stop this run game. They really could. I think they're on an even playing field now.
Yeah, that's what I thought about Rico Dowdle, and then that didn't turn out. That didn't turn out too well. I thought, yeah, no Chuba Hubbard. They're in good shape. This is so fortunate. And then this guy runs for a career best 206 yards or whatever it was. Here's the funny thing about that 2016 team that we were both there to cover. You remember when they were 1-4 on the Tuesday, the off day after they fell to 1-4, Adam Gase cut 3 offensive linemen. And we remember that it was Dallas Thomas, Billy Turner, and Jamil Douglas. Now, remember, this was in 2016, October 11th, actually, almost 9 years to today. Today is October 7th. Jamil Douglas was a 2015 fourth-round pick. Dallas Thomas, a 2013 third-round pick. Billy Turner, a 2014 third-round pick. So he cut 2 third-round picks and a fourth-round pick. Offensive linemen, and that offensive line, for some reason, was able to gel and take off. Guys like Jermon Bushrod and Laramie Tunsil in his rookie year, Mike Pouncey. I mean, look, the key was Jay Ajayi, and as you say, they pivoted. They didn't plan on going to a run game. Jay Ajayi just took off. He had back-to-back 200-yard games. And I'll tell you this also, after that happened, they had 3 separate receivers who recorded 100-yard games. Jarvis Landry and Kenny Stills and Devontae Parker each had a 100-yard game on the way to this team winning 11 games. So there was some diversity. There was some talent. Ryan Tannehill, he didn't have a 300-yard passing game that whole season. It was a very strange season as far as the team goes. Their offense ended up 17th in the league at 22.7 points per game. The defense was 18th in the league at 23.8 points per game. Their turnover margin was +2. So this isn't a team that was laden with superstar players or anything like that. They just found some magic and they got hot. I don't see that happening with this Dolphins team because, as you say, Hyde, I don't see what they can bank on. Devon Achane is nice, but I don't see him having back-to-back 200-yard games. Jalen Waddle is nice, but his 110 yards that he had Sunday is not the same as Tyreek Hill getting 110 yards, right? Where the whole defense is on alert and on edge, and they're wondering, how do we stop this guy? Darren Waller, how does he just get stopped in the second half? Mike McDaniel says, well, they just took him away. Like, how the heck does that happen?
Well, I talked to Waller afterwards. I asked him, he goes, in the first half, in the middle of the field, he had open space. In the second half,
Yep.
he looked to his left, there's a Carolina Panther. He looked to his right, there's a Carolina. They bracketed them. They
Yep.
said, Bill Belichick would do this all the time. I'm going to take away a receiver, and he would do it.
Yep.
So the point being, other guys should have been open.
Right.
Other guys, you
Right.
take advantage of that. After their opening 3 scores, the Dolphins punted 6 of their final 7 possessions, and 5 of them were 3 and outs, and the other one was 5 plays. And the final one, the one that was the touchdown, of course, to Waddle,
Yep.
that could have won the game. But so their offense won. So if teams are going to say Waddle's their best receiver, Waller is their best receiver. There's a lot of W's here. It used to be Jalen, now we're to W's.
Right.
But getting back to 2016, the other point is that was Adam Gaze's first year.
Yes.
You can cut 3 guys, and you make a big statement about, okay, I'm the new sheriff in town. This is how we're going to set up operation here. You can't do that in your 4th year. Everybody knows who you are, and it's a lot more difficult to make a statement of change. So, no, I don't see that happening. 1-4. At 0-3, I said, 12 days in, from Thursday to the next Sunday, the season's over, and just because of the problems, and I don't see anything that's changing that idea.
Boy, I thought that they could beat the Jets in Carolina, and I picked them to be a 9-win team and get back on track to being a 9-win team. But this team has regressed so much since even the start of the season. I mean, that Indianapolis game, the 33-8, they just looked so unprepared and uninspired. And we haven't seen anything to change our opinion of that. Even the 27-21 Jets victory, they kind of had to hang on at the end of that game to come away with that victory. And so it's been a very deflating type of season, even though we're only a third of the way through. Before we continue, let's say what's up to some of our viewers here. Pete's Takes, Ender Fireplays YT. How do I mess that up every time? Dead Street, Peter McDowell, Mr. Bull, Pretty Boy, of course, always. Raphael Courtwright, as always. Mal Be Crazy, Be Stuck the Poet, Matthew Blue, Rob, Comrade, Carl Beckert, a lot of our regulars here, DeHesse, a lot of our regulars on here. Always glad to see you. Always glad to hear from you. Cat for Life is here with us today. So always good to see some of these people. Page C here. Sean Heller in the house. Good to see Sean in the house. So always glad to see you guys. Boy, the text line, the chat line is just on fire here. Just absolutely on fire. Let me ask you this real quick. Pete's Takes started off with this. We went from tank to Tua to now tanking with Tua. I love it. Draft talk, anyone? Dave Hyde, we were just talking about the 2016 team and can this team emulate them? We both say probably not. Is it time to talk draft? Like, where do we turn our conversation for the rest of this season? I mean, we've still got 2/3 of the season left. Are we talking draft right now, or do we still go, no, maybe they could turn it around like the 2016 Dolphins?
Well, we talk draft. We do. We will.
Right.
The problem, McDaniel, Greer aren't going to talk draft because they're going to, as I would, do everything they can to save their jobs. Tua is not going to talk draft. So the question becomes how, they should beat the Chargers, right? The Chargers are so neutered. They should.
They are.
Panthers. Then they play the Browns and the Falcons.
Right.
The schedule is so set up for them to have had a great year. And it's rare you can say that in the NFL because it's built to be equitable, right?
Right.
But they have a favorable schedule. They've had a favorable schedule to this point too, and it hadn't helped. So, they're going to need someone above all these guys to decide what's the game plan for the rest of the season, and that's Steve Ross. And who knows what he's thinking, other than he's frustrated.
Right, right. That's all we know. And so that leads us perfectly into segment number 2. What changes can the Dolphins make on and off the field here? Off the field, I wrote my column that, I don't think that Mike McDaniel should return next season. I don't think Chris Greer should return next season. I don't think Tua should return next season. And I should say in their current capacities. And, Tua is kind of a separate one because, you can either do the Denver Broncos, Russell Wilson thing and just take the financial pain, or you can do the Atlanta Falcons Kirk Cousins thing and bench him and say, we've got a younger guy. We'll wait till somebody offers us something for you in trade. But my thing with Mike McDaniel, we'll take McDaniel first. I'm not sure that he needs to be fired today or tomorrow. What I say is he shouldn't return next season. I think the time to make the in-season change will be the time that the players stop listening to him. I think that the players are always going to like Mike. For the most part, they're going to respect Mike. But at some point, they're going to stop listening to him. When you're 1-5, 1-6, whatever you turn into, and the players see that, look, we had all this talent, in the last 18 months, they've lost Christian Wilkins and Rob Hunt and Tyreek Hill for a different reason. Jalen Ramsey, Calais Campbell. I mean, they've seen all this talent walk out the door, and they weren't able to win when they had that talent. I think that when you start falling to 1-4, 1-5, Mike McDaniel's words start becoming hollow, and you stop listening. I think that's the time that you make the head coaching change. So I think Mike is, as long as the players are listening to him, he's okay, but he definitely shouldn't be back next season because they had all this talent and they wet the bed. They don't deserve another shot.
Well, I'd agree. I think it's a given that Greer and McDaniel won't be back next year. I mean, I think even the Dolphins can't bring them back. Okay, no. For all their strange moves Steve Ross has made, this would be the strangest of all. The question is, what this year? What do you do with McDaniel this year? What do you do? And Greer's kind of out of the picture because he doesn't really matter. And I disagree with you. They had this talent. That look at the lines. The defensive line is just getting destroyed in a way that I've never seen in an NFL level. Certainly, the Dolphins line get just gashed like they have the last 2 weeks. Really, all year they've been run on, but the last 2 weeks has opened the floodgates. Where Carolina, for whatever reason, only ran twice. In part, they didn't have the ball a lot, but they ran twice in the first quarter. And then the coach, he must have hit himself upside the head, oh, yeah, they're not good at – we're going to run for 234 yards over the final 3 quarters. So what do? I've been saying – I thought coming into the year, okay, we're going to play the young guys. I get it. But the young guy, you can't play the young guys when they are so substandard. When your number 1 draft pick, the defensive tackle, is getting just pushed back play after play. He can't even hold. He's like on roller skates. And so you're not doing him any benefit, and you're certainly not doing the team any benefit when they look at. So the first thing I'd be doing, I'd be going all over. If Biggers, the 7th round pick, can't play, I'd be going all over the practice squads, just like they did for the offensive line, and signing Connor Strange. I'd find a defensive tackle. You got to do something, because you cannot keep putting these young guys out there when they're. I mean, Pro Football Focus ranks Grant as the last defensive tackle in football. I mean, you can't do that. You're telling the other players it really doesn't matter. We're going to play him regardless, and you're not doing him any. But let him sit back and maybe collect himself a little.
But so here's my counter to that, though, Hyde, is that you cannot go into the next draft going can Kenneth Grant play? Do we need to draft another defensive tackle? Like, you need a definitive answer,
You're
and you
getting
only
one.
get
You're
that.
getting one. He can't play.
But you've got to keep. But you got. It's only 5 games, though, Dave. I mean, you gotta let him play. I mean, you've got to let him learn and grow and give him a chance. I mean, he's a rookie interior defensive lineman. They take a little
Put him
bit
in
longer.
a more limited role, a much more limited role until he shows he can handle that, and then progressively build him up again, hopefully by the end of the year. But right now, what benefit are you getting from a guy just being destroyed every play? I mean, every single play out there, he is being. It's like high school against college, or college against pros. Like he's never seen this level of talent or been up against it. So I'm not saying give up on him. I'm just saying,
okay,
unless here's option B, and I would be for this. This is a franchise that it tanked. Now's the time you tank. When you're into the middle, you get a couple more games, maybe another game lost, and you say we're going to be a disaster. Then's when you tank. I mean, you don't tank. It's so stupid in 2019. Trade away players and tank at the start of the year, but you get in the middle of a year, and you're a disaster. You say, okay, let's embrace this, and we'll rebuild in the off season.
Matthew Blue checks in and says, when are Greer or McDaniel going into job preservation mode and trying to make roster moves to save themselves? I think it's too late for that, right? I mean, there's no move out there. And if they try, Steve Ross needs to step in, right, and say, don't spend our assets, right?
Yeah, there's a larger point. I think if they tried to trade a second-round pick, and I think Greer ain't going to do that, but let's say they tried to trade a second or third round pick for somebody, that wouldn't fly. And so I think we're far past job preservation mode. Was last March when they started to make their free agent and draft decisions. And I mean, you look at their draft, they're not getting any help from nobody of significance. And you look at Cleveland's draft, and they're getting help from every single. But you see what I like going to the show. Okay, they're going to play the young guys, and I assume they had a representative class, but so far, it's a bunch of Noah Igmanogenes out there.
Yeah, it is. It is. I remember after the draft or during the draft, when I questioned why didn't they draft a cornerback? Why did they trade up to get Jonah? Why did they trade out of the 3rd and 4th rounds when their whole philosophy change was we're going to win with draftee players? It's like you need more draftees and young players then. You need a bigger talent pool. And I wrote that the offseason has been borderline disastrous. And I didn't think it was going to be this, though. I really did not foresee this, and there's still a lot of season left, but they've even exceeded my expectations from that standpoint. When we talk about making mid-season changes, Rob says is not being able to tackle a talent issue, a coaching issue, or something else. I would say it's talent and coaching, right? I mean, I look, and when we talk about the in-season changes, Anthony Weaver was the guy that I thought would be the natural guy to step in as the interim coach. This front seven is the biggest disappointment on the team. And I knew that the defensive line was going to be a weakness. The defensive tackle spots, that wasn't going to be the strength of the front seven. You did have Zach Sealer coming back, and you did have Benito Jones coming back, and you drafted Kenneth Grant. But to me, the strength of the front seven was your 4 edge rushers, right? And Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Chop Robinson, Matthew Judon, and then your inside linebackers of Jordan Brooks and Terrell Dodson. And behind them, if you needed them, Willie Gay and KJ Britt. None of them have been good. Terrell Dodson and Jordan Brooks are making tackles 6 and 7 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. Nobody is doing anything that makes the game turn, that makes a defense say, oh, we better watch out for him. I thought they were going to be pressuring quarterbacks. This was the number 9 run defense in the league last year. I thought they were going to be able to build off of that. I wasn't predicting them to be a top 10 run defense again, but I didn't expect them to be dead last in the league with an embarrassing number. What are they, like 172 yards allowed per game or whatever they are? I didn't expect this. So is this a coaching issue, a talent issue, or something else from what we're seeing of the run defense, the front side, even the secondary guys? Minkah has missed tackles. What do you attribute this to?
Well, I attributed a bad player acquisition. Chris Greer. I mean, we've seen Anthony Weaver coach work magic last year with questionable defense. So I give Anthony Weaver and those guys the benefit of the doubt that they've just been handled dog do and been told, dress it up. And you look, they have 2 cornerbacks who weren't in training camp. They have 2. Chubb has had serious injuries through his career. At some point, it's catching up, and I think we're either he's still working out the rust and for his body from all the injuries, or he's slowed down.
Well, yeah, we lost Dave Hyde. So
sorry about that. We had a technological problem here at the home studio. That is the question. Is it the draft in this case or development? And they have developed players. I mean, or at least use them if they had talent last year, to the point I'd say, what's going on here? This can't be schematics or pad level, or it can't all be that. It's got to be a lot of talent.
Yeah, the talent level is it's thin. We can all acknowledge that it's very thin. But man, I just wonder I just wonder, is there something that this team can do that they're not doing, that they're something they can do defensively that they're not leaning into? And I haven't come up with the answer, quite honestly.
Perk, when you cannot physically match the energy and talent on the other side, it's hard to come up with these great schemes and everything. That's where everything starts. If you're getting pushed back 3 yards on every play like this defensive line is, I mean, you can't work magic with X and O's and come up with that. And then you got neither of these cornerbacks want to tackle. And like you said, Minkah, I think we're seeing why Pittsburgh said, okay, we're happy with trading Minkah. He's fine, but he's not the 7-time Pro Bowl player that he once was. And so you add all, Chubb, I really don't think is playing well. I think Jalen Phillips is playing pretty well. I think he's fine. He's on the road to fine. Okay. But he'd be about the only one I would say, okay, I see it.
Jalen needs to get the quarterback on the ground. He's got to be the playmaker. He's been really close a few times. I don't think he's playing poorly.
He got his first sack this past.
He did.
He did. You're right. Yeah, I don't disagree with you that. Yeah, they need someone who can make plays, who's actually making plays for the defense and not just tackling 4 and 5 and 6 yards downfield.
Okay, so we talked about some of the off-field changes, right? We agree that Greer and McDaniel shouldn't be back next season. What about on-field? What about Tua? What about Jalen Phillips, who is playing on his 5th-year option? I wouldn't bring Jalen Phillips back. I just wouldn't. And you got Chop Robinson. You can draft somebody else.
You're going in the offseason. You're doing this. You're going to the offseason already.
Well,
you're going to have another 12 games to judge Jalen Phillips. You don't have to make the decision now, right? Let's see who he becomes in the next 10 games, and then maybe you. So that would be the other
Edge
thing.
rushers, Hyde, they cost a lot.
Well, we'll see. Maybe he won't. Maybe after 10 games you give him something and he said, okay, I'll take it because I protect. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to shake out. But I mean, to your point, I wouldn't spend a lot of money on him right now because But
I think Devon Achane is the guy that I would enthusiastically throw some money at, but not too much, because he is a running back and they're kind of disposable, although I don't necessarily subscribe to that thinking. But they are kind of disposable. He is small-ish, and you could have a new administration coming in, but Achane, who is in his third year, and next year would be his contract year, I would want to get out ahead of that. He's the guy who I would think, all right, I'm gonna shovel some cash your way, but you're not gonna get one of those 2024 contract extensions. You're not getting the Tua, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, Jalen Ramsey type deal. It might not be team friendly. We might both walk away a little bit unhappy, but you need to secure Devon Achane, because the other two running backs that you've drafted, you don't know what Jalen Wright is. You have no idea what Ollie Gordon is.
Well, you do. You know what Jalen Wright is. You don't really like him. You made him inactive this past game. I mean, you're telling everybody what you think of him, right? I mean, he's not the answer. Or Ollie Gordon. I like Ollie Gordon, and
me too.
So, but he's got to produce, and
right.
That's there. But you have a whole rest of the season to see that stuff. The other point is, if you're going to make a regime change, as everybody expects, it depends on who you bring in. What do they value?
Right.
I'm not ready to go into spending money on this guy or not that guy just yet.
Yeah, and look, Waller is 33. He's one of your top players. We know Waddle is going to be back. We know Achane will be back. Patrick Paul will be back. Aaron Brewer should be back. But we got to see about like Austin Jackson. We know Zach Sealer will be back. There's guys under contract there. And, when I name these guys under contract or guys that are going to be back, I look and I go, well, they've got some talent. It's not playoff caliber talent, but they've got some talent.
They don't have much talent, Perk. They really don't have.
Tua's got some talent. Achane has got some talent. Waddle has got some talent.
Yes.
Brewer, Patrick Paul, Zach Sealer, Jordan Brooks, Chop Robinson. Again, you don't have playoff caliber talent, but you should have middling 8-9 win talent, and that's not what I'm seeing out there.
6, 7, 8 win talent, but the problem is you do have some talent, but you have glaring holes, and that you can't have glaring holes anywhere and be a good NFL team, because the other team is gonna, as they have on the run defense, it's just gonna attack that and attack it and attack it until all your talent elsewhere doesn't matter. That doesn't explain the offense going into a funk through almost the full last 3 quarters until the one touchdown that could have won them the game. But defensively, they're just a mess. And what do you do? To me, the question becomes this season, the contracts and all that, I'll worry about in the offseason. What do you do with what do you do with Seven Aya this year, Perk? What do you do when he's struggling, to put it kindly? You trade him. He's Liam Eichenberg 2 right now. Oh, maybe even worse than Leon Eichenberg. You traded a second and third for him.
Yes,
and right. Leon Eichenberg Jr. And I don't know what you do with him, whether it's safe to. Do you want Tua behind that? Do you want him losing his confidence? Is there somebody who could just put in a serviceable guard to help the offensive line? What do you do with him, Perk?
You have to check to see how he does the next few games, and if he doesn't do what you think is progress, if he doesn't show what you think is progress, you got to bench him. You got to bench him for a little bit, and that will be kind of your answer of, this guy can't play. That's how we have to go into the offseason, saying Sabaya and Aya can't play, and you're not going to cut him. You're not going to get rid of him. but you need to
Well,
work
the next
hard with
regime
that guy.
might. The next regime might get rid of them. They'd have no investment to them. So we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
see.
they
We'll
might, they
see.
might.
I mean, that's getting ahead of the line here.
It is
My question: how do you handle him now if he keeps
right.
playing like this?
Yeah, only the real survive checks in with this. It's about to be past city with our weak secondary. Somebody brought this up on Twitter last night and saying, look at we're like second fewest pass attempts against, and it's because everybody's running on you. Like they don't need to. That's high risk. You go low risk and you run on this team. And so that's kind of what you used to see in when I was covering high school football. You would see some of the worst teams would have the best pass defense. Now this was back in the 80s and the 90s, and it would be because they're getting run on. Nobody needs to throw on them. You're running the ball on them. And that's the thing about this defense is that there's nothing at this point through 5 games that provides a foothold, right? That you can't stop the run, you can't stop the pass. It's dealer's choice how you want to attack this defense. And so if 2 questions, if you're Anthony Weaver, what do you do? And would Anthony Weaver still be your choice for interim coach? I know we're getting ahead of ourselves there, but
No, we're not.
what do you
We're
do
not.
if you're Weaver?
That's a legitimate question. I don't know what Anthony Weaver can do. I'll be honest with you. And look, they were playing the last 2 weeks Justin Fields and Bryce Young at quarterback.
Right.
They're right down there in the dregs of the quarterbacks as far as talent. So you would be loading up on the run game. And Weaver even talked about he's running blitzes, running them in the holes, not to get the quarterback, but for the run game.
Yep.
and it wasn't working, obviously. So he's trying every strategic foothold he can find right now. Would he be my, this is one, when they plucked Dan Campbell out last time, I was like, that's an interesting choice. I wouldn't have thought that. It's one of you got to know inside how these guys we don't see a ton of, how they interact. I tell you, the tight ends coach right now, if you want to go right down the same road, is John. He's a straight shooter and so that might be one. This is one. We're veterans of interim coach decisions, right? Todd Bowles came in, and that was a clear cut. That was honestly an easy decision because he was a defensive coordinator, well respected, and you probably wanted to see him coach. Dan Campbell was an interesting choice in that he came in and was the opposite of Joe Philbin. A loud, strong. Well, you didn't see who Dan Campbell is, and you see who Joe Philbin is, and they're opposite on the alpha male category. And so, I don't know who that guy would be this time. Weaver would be. I mean, he sure sounded like a head coach the other day in the press conference.
Yeah. I think it's either Weaver or John Embry to me. I agree with you. I like Embry, how he's a straight shooter. There's no BS with him. But you do have Darrell Bevel, the quarterbacks coach, who has been an interim head coach, and Eric Studesville, the running backs coach, who has been an interim head coach also on this staff. Bobby Slowick, the senior pass game coordinator, was an offensive coordinator. So, he was a high-ranking guy. Joe Barry, the linebackers coach, was a defensive coordinator. So he was a high-ranking guy in another staff, not the Dolphin staff. So you do have some guys that are candidates, but for this particular team and this particular situation, Embry might be just a straight shooter. I still do like Weaver, just because of what he showed us last year. And he's a guy who has interviewed, Chicago, Atlanta, Washington, New Orleans, I believe is the list. But his guys they're not showing me anything.
Let's give the Dolphins some credit here, Perk. The one thing they've done well in the last decade is pick the interim coach. Right. They've been very good at that. Exactly. Todd Bowles, look at Dan Campbell. Right. Those are 2 great NFL coaches. They're better than any coach the Dolphins have picked and invested in and given years and years of service. So whoever they're going to pick, I'm just going to say you guys did a great job. This guy, it could be the next star in the NFL.
Yeah, they've had great staffs, right? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, 7 defensive coordinators, current defensive coordinators, have roots with the Dolphins, including Anthony Campanelli, the most recent, right? Who's in Jacksonville, and we see what they're doing. By the way, the teams that the Dolphins have played preseason and the regular season, they've turned out to be decent, right? Chicago in the preseason is 2-2. Detroit preseason is 4-1. Jacksonville preseason 4-1. Indy season opener 4-1. New England 3-2. Now Carolina and the Jets are terrible. Buffalo 4-1. That's not an excuse. That is no excuse for being where they're at. But you would think they're better. You would think if iron sharpens iron, you would think the Dolphins would be better. And I just think that from sometimes what we see now,
iron whittles wood sometimes. Perk, did you ever think of that? Exactly. I tell you that the team about that really, when you said it, I cringed. Was New England. New England has passed the Dolphins. I mean,
I know
that is cringeworthy if you're a Dolphin fan. That they just stepped right over you in line, and they aren't looking back. And that you knew you were behind Buffalo, but New England getting some things fixed out, and Mike Vrabel doing it, and Drake May looking like the guy, going into Buffalo and doing what you can't do. That hurt.
Yeah, and look, in the other conference, I mean, Detroit has surpassed them since that 2022 game that they played, that the Dolphins beat them. The Rams and Tampa imported quarterbacks, Matt Stafford and Tom Brady. You won Super Bowls, and then you've rebuilt your teams, and so to speak, and you won a playoff game since then. And the Dolphins have not won a playoff game. So the number of teams that have surpassed the Dolphins in different ways is just alarming. It's absolutely alarming, and it's just hard to believe that the Dolphins have sunk so far. So quickly. Let me ask you this: as far as you mentioned Jonah at left guard, what do you do at right guard? Which I know that the answers are the same, right? It's the same talent pool. You can choose among Keon Smith and Daniel Brunskill. Cole Strange is already starting, as you said. What do you do at either guard position? Like, how did you get in this situation? Do you need Andrew Meyer and Liam Eichenberg this badly?
Well, that's the odd thing to me is they not only they had some bad luck with the depth, right? Liam Eichenberg, Andrew Meyer, and so they had to go out and get a practice squad player. And Cole Strange seems to. I mean, he's okay, right?
He's okay.
He's okay. Well, that's all you can hope for, right? When you're grabbing a practice squad, he's never practiced with the team, no training camp, and you're putting him out there. You take okay. Where's James Daniels stand? Where are we at with him? Is he gone? You expect some word on him coming up, right?
Yeah, no, he's not ready. Mike McDaniel said that neither Austin Jackson nor James Daniels are ready. They're probably weeks away.
Okay, yeah,
so
It was a little nebulous to me when weeks plural away. I wasn't sure. I thought I heard week. Whether was he mean next week or 2 weeks but you're getting serviceable play there. To me, the rookie. Jonah, I got to make a decision on him. Where are you going to go through the complete growing pains? Which that's a decision. If they want to do that, that's fine. Same with Grant on the defensive line and Phillips. Are you going to go with just throw them out there, keep them out there, sink or swim? They're sinking right now, but you hope that the light will go on. And do you want to do that, or do you limit them and try to spoon feed them a little and get them back on their feet and help them? But I don't know. There's that's where we are in this season.
It is. Nomadic Baller says we are just in such bad shape. Is that really that? I mean, that's the realization I'm coming to. And that's why I wrote that, when we're talking about changes on and off the field, that Greer can't come back. McDaniel can't come back because this is year 4. This isn't year 1 or year 2. This is year 4, and you're worse than you were.
It's year 7
well, for the rebuild,
or year
for Greer.
10 running the draft. I mean,
right.
I think those are set asides because I think those are givens that they won't be back. But the harder part to navigate is the next 3 months where you're playing games and what are you trying to accomplish? That's what the first thing the Dolphins have to decide, and that comes to Steve Ross and Tom Garfinkel and what do they want to accomplish? 2019 they want to accomplish we're going to lose games, and they screwed that up. Okay, yeah. And they didn't tank properly. They, as I said, and I'll repeat it. If you're a smart organization, you don't have to tank, and if you're a dumb organization, don't try it. And they tried it, and so, but the middle of the season, as I said, it's a different thing. So they got a decision, and before you can say they should do this or this, what do they want to accomplish? I don't know what they want to accomplish.
Yeah, for the rest of the season, I think you just have to figure out who can play and who can't. Like who stays as kind of a core member of whatever we're trying to accomplish. And look, the next guys that you hire at GM and head coach, you got to hear their 3-year plan. And, how do you plan on winning a playoff game in the next 3 years? How do you get us from point A to point B? Is Tua involved? Is Zach Sealer involved? Devon H. That's you need. That's what you're trying to see for the rest of this season is when the new guys come in, who stays, who are you going to recommend that stays? Ultimately, it's their decision, but you've got to know kind of who can play and who can't, and that's why I favor keeping Kenneth Grant and Jonas Abai-Naya out there, not to the point where they lose confidence or they're a huge detriment to the team.
How can they not have lost confidence? I mean, are you kidding me? I get you could have the biggest ego in the world. When you see what's happening to them on tape, they have to lose confidence. Now, can they regain it? Can they, be built up again? And I'm not saying that they're lost or their careers are lost or anything. This happens sometimes with the rookies. You don't expect it to be this bad with the first round and a guy you traded up for in the second round, right. But that's where we are. To me, the question, what are you trying to do? Do you want to lose? And that's ultimately the big decision for this organization. And it's not going to happen if Mike and Chris are there.
Yeah. Hyde, let's move on to our next segment. And it's what's wrong with the front seven. And we kind of touched on this a little bit. They can't tackle. They can't rush the passer. They can't stop the run. And that's pretty much the segment, right? that's what's wrong with
even look, Zach Sealer. Zach Sealer is a really good football player. We know that, right?
Yep.
But he's not a, huge, physically imposing run stopper where you just throw out there and you say he's not Benito Jones. To me, what happened to him this year? All these guys you expected something from.
Right.
I'm not even noticing except when they're down on the ground and the guy's running right by him. And so, I get Tyrell Dotson's had a lot of tackles and he had a head issue last game, but he hasn't. Either it's because guys around him in front of him are getting pushed around so badly, but he hasn't had a lot of stellar games either. So the middle of the defense just hasn't been physical. They have been out tough. It's like the organization soft, and there's the definition of the organization.
Yeah, and you know what? And they had their roles on that front seven, right? Where you had Tyrell Dodson was the linebacker who led the team in interceptions last year. 3 interceptions in whatever he played for them, 8 games after he joined them mid-season. Jordan Brooks was your run stopper, right? He led the team in tackles with like 143. Zach Sealer, back-to-back 10-sack seasons. He's a guy who could rush the passer from the interior. Benito Jones, while he's not a Pro Bowl caliber player. I mean, he's about average, maybe a tick below average, but he's your run stopper. Again, Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb and Chop Robinson are supposed to be able to get to the quarterback and get him on the ground and get sacks or harass them, make the defense worry about where they're at. None of these guys are playing those roles, and I don't know why. Maybe Zach is feeling too much pressure. Okay, I get that. Jalen and Bradley Chubb are coming off injuries. Okay, I guess I get that. The linebackers and Benito and everybody can't be down in the dumps at the same time. That's the thing. And I thought they had enough talent to where, okay, if Chubb isn't doing his job, if he's slow coming around, well, Jalen and Chop and Judon can pick up the slack until he comes around. And we're not seeing almost that complementary front seven football that I thought we were going to see. I'm not smart enough to know why. I just know that we're not seeing it. And I wonder is there a coaching issue here? As much as I like Weave, you got to ask that question. Is this a coaching issue? I'm going to answer my own question and say, no, I don't think it is. I did right in the offseason. The offense feasted while the defense was largely neglected. I mean, the defense got Kenneth Grant. That's about it. I mean, you didn't address safety properly. You didn't address cornerback properly. The edge rusher, you got Matthew Judon, but you thought you had depth there. You did get Willie Gay and KJ Britt. That's good, but the defense got crumbs, and they were told to like it. And I think to a large extent, we're seeing the results of that.
Well, they got Chubb back at an incentive-laden $19 million.
Yep.
So they got Phillips, and that was the idea. Okay, they'll get healthy. I understood what they were. I get what you're saying, and at the same time, I understood what they were thinking. Now, Kenneth Grant, you expect to have a Christian Wilkins type rookie year, right? I mean, that's sort of the prototype where you're good. It's not a position you step in generally as a rookie and are great right from the go. It is but you can be average, and that was the hope, right? You'd be average, and he has been decidedly less than average, and Jordan Phillips is right with him. And so, meanwhile, to me, it gets down to look who they're playing this week. Tart for the Chargers. Was released a year ago, defensive tackle. Now he's number 1 rated run stopper, according to Pro Football Focus. And I use those as those guidelines, meaning he's having a good year.
Right.
Whether he's number 1 or number 5 or whatever. I mean, he's having a good year. And so this gets down to scouting yourself, which I've always, look at the talent that's gone out the door with the Dolphins. Right. Not even Christian Wilkins, the Andrew Van Ginkels. They're desperate for safeties this year, but a couple years ago they had Deshaun Elliott and Brandon Jones and to go with Javon Holland. I mean, so self-scouting, as much as scouting the draft and free agency, self-scouting decisions with the guys you have is something they've failed with.
Yeah, and the self-scouting thing, the thing that we didn't bring up enough last year is, you talk about self-scouting, they were 0-3 after the bye. Like, who goes 0-3 after the bye? And Tua played in 2 of those games. What are you doing there? How did you spend that week? You didn't discover anything about your team. But I will say this also when we talk about this team and the front seven, I just don't see the disruption in any area, and I think they're playing hard. That's the thing. I think it's not like they're out there dogging it. They're just missing tackles and it's poor gap assignment, and you're trying to make plays because you don't trust the other guy next to you is going to do his job and make the play. And I thought that I saw better stuff in the preseason and in the joint practices than I'm seeing now. And that's why I say that they've regressed. And yes, they look like garbage a couple of days against Chicago and Detroit, but they seem to kind of gather their feet a little bit more as those joint practices and the preseason games arrived. And so I thought, okay, they're showing an ability to learn, and they're getting a little bit better. But man, what we've seen since that Indianapolis game, I don't know who on that defense has gotten better. I mean, you can say offensively, Patrick Paul has gotten better, and Darren Waller has gotten better, and I guess Waddle, since Tyreek has gone down, he had the 110-yard performance with the 46-yard touchdown. There's a couple of guys on offense that I can say, okay, they're showing signs. Defense, I just wrote the story, and I'm glad I did, about the cornerbacks aren't the weak link. Well, they were last week, right? Jack Jones, 2 penalties, and the flag inexplicably picked up on the holding or pass interference. He's the one who had the third down pass interference call that pretty much sealed the game. I don't know who's getting better on this defense. And again, we have to ask, is this Weave? Is this coaching? Is this scheme? Is this a lack of talent? I don't know what's going on with this defense. I don't know what I'm seeing, especially when I look at this front seven. Zach Sealer, where are you? Where are you? I don't understand what's going on with this front seven.
You throw it to the whole defense right now. There's nobody really standing out, and the last couple of weeks they haven't even played good offenses. So, and they won't this week either. So the Chargers are as beat up as any team in football right now.
Yep.
And so, in a good year, this is one where you would say, okay, the Dolphins will get healthy and feel better about themselves. The problem is it's not like they're losing the same way where they're getting physically dominated. And that's a hard thing to say, oh, they don't have the killer instinct, or they schematically aren't doing things right. When they're just getting run over.
Right.
And that's right. Whether I'm with you. I don't know. Is it talent? I think it's talent, because I saw this defense be really good with these coaches last year. So,
yeah.
The other question, should they have spent that $5 million on Calais Campbell and bring him back and help school these young guys and be a defensive tackle himself? He's having a nice year for Arizona.
It's funny that you say that, because C. Dola, I was just looking at the text here, can't just let Calais Campbell walk out the building. Did they offer him anything? They didn't offer him enough. They thought, we got this. See ya, Calais, we got this. And you didn't. Here's an interesting one from Dead Street. They come here to get the money and party. And that kind of gets back to your Ron Jaworski, Vic Fangio comment. I don't know that that's true, but something's going on here. But I don't see this as a party team. That was the accusation last year. Just looking at some of these guys in the locker room, they're young and they're in their 20s. And so, if you're single and you're in South Florida and there's women, and of course you're going to enjoy yourself. But I see them as fairly committed.
You're doing it in your 30s, Perk.
That's right. Yeah, that was two decades ago. Yeah, I did. But that's the mystery here, Dave. Is I don't see these as slackers. I don't see this as a bad coaching assignment. Yes, there's a lack of talent here. Again, nobody thought this team was going to the playoffs, but they have been just terrible. And I don't. Maybe they are partying. Maybe it's coaching. Maybe it's talent. But this is not the team that I saw in training camp and preseason. They have regressed. They have gotten progressively worse pretty much each week.
Yeah, that's the scary part. And I don't know, partying or not. Vic Fangio through Jaworski said that about some players. But the larger point, I think, is professionalism. Are they are they putting in the work, the extra work? And like last week after practice, I was out there, and there were a few guys out there after practice putting in some work. But the question there's a level of work, especially when you're young.
Right.
Do you know what the level of work that's needed is? And
Right.
That would be the teaching point. I would make to them is, okay, you think you're working, but you're really not. And all the great teams have that. You talk about the Panthers, their first year, I can't think of the guy's name. The first signing by Bill Zito was a former Pittsburgh Penguin. And after the first practice, everybody's leaving, and he said, "Hey, where are you guys going?" They said, "Well, practice is over." He goes, "Get your butts back out here. You got a lot more work to do on your, or you go, Eric Spoelstra is famous for drills, with four players after practice to show them you think you're working, but you're really not working the way you should be." And that would be the question, more than partying. It's just honing your craft and professionally building yourself up that I'd question.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, because that's, I think one of the most overblown stories that we all report is, oh, they stayed after practice, or oh, the quarterback and the receivers threw during the offseason. Everybody does that. Yeah. Everybody does. All the quarterbacks and receivers get together in the offseason and throw. Oh, we're showing such great leadership. Everybody does that, but they know how to work that, and that's the thing. I don't think this team doesn't have anybody to show them how to work. And you'll recall when Dwayne's rookie year, Dwayne Wade, when that was just this lucky, plucky team. We're overachieving, and we won our first round playoff series, and we go to Indianapolis and we lose, but everybody's happy. And then Shaq comes in the next year, one of the biggest kids in the league, but everything changed. The whole tone was kind of like, we've got championship expectations now. And it was a little more serious around. Well, it was a lot more serious around there. And you don't see that with the Dolphins, even through having Tyreek and Jalen Ramsey and Calais Campbell and Teron Armstead. It was still a pretty chill environment, that there was no expectation of, we expect to win a playoff game, or we expect to go to the AFC Championship. I think the Dolphins need more of that. Show me how to work hard. I think they need more of that. So anyway, let's migrate to our final segment here, Hyde. It's prediction time, baby. Dolphins Chargers, Hard Rock Stadium, 1:00. Who you got?
Oh God, I'm going to pick the Dolphins every game this year. I'm just going to do it. And I cannot. To this Chargers offense is a disaster. And it's almost like the famous phrase, the irresistible force against the unmatchable whatever. These are both can be pushed, and so. But I'm going to go with the Dolphins, 20-18, and just because I feel like I need a little positivity in my life, Perk.
All right, there you go. I'm going Chargers, 28-20. Last week on the show, I picked Carolina to win, and I said, but don't hold me to it. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, these are the type of games that the Dolphins win. It's a bad team. And so in the paper, I ended up in the paper. I guess I should say online, right? The written prediction, that tells you how old I am. The written prediction I took.
You changed the Dolphins, Perk?
Oh, I did. I went with Dolphins 21-20. I'm not changing it this week. I'm going Chargers. I'm going Chargers 28-20. So I just don't have any faith in this team anymore. They've got to show me before I fall for this stuff again. David Laser says Dolphins 24-20. Let's see. Raphael Courtright says 17-16 Chargers. Rob says Chargers 29, Dolphins 13. Dead Street, Dolphins 21-20. Mr. Bull, Dolphins 35-14. Raphael Courtright, Chargers 73-20. How about that? Dehesse, Chargers 24-21. Yeah, fans are all over the place on these predictions, man. You know,
A one
I would
o'clock
like to see
game,
the
1 o'clock
Dolphins.
game at home, still in the heat of the. It's starting to turn a little, but it's
Yeah,
still hot out there and humid. Chargers are playing at 10 a.m. for their bodies. I mean, I all hope is already gone for this season. But you just end the season if they lose this game.
yes. Who is this? Let's see. What did I see? Michael Castellano says Dolphins only win because Tua has the hotter hand than Herbert right now. Just look at their last 3 games, but it's really D line and defensive games. So there you go, man. Louis says I can't believe we are 1-4 with this garbage schedule. Fire everyone. Wow. That's kind of a common type of a thought right now. So we'll see what happens with this team. It's going to be really, really, really miserable if they lose this game. Let me ask you this, Hyde. If they do fall to 1-5 with this loss, does Mike McDaniel make it through the week to the what was Atlanta's the next game? Does he make it through to the next game?
Cleveland's the next game.
Cleveland. Yeah, that's
the question just becomes then, when do you want to fire him? And that gets back to my bigger question of, what does Steve Ross want to accomplish the rest? What do the Dolphins want to accomplish the rest of the year? Because it's not going to be going to the playoffs. It's not going to be, challenging really for anything of any consequence. It's A, player development, but B, and maybe this is A, put themselves in position this offseason. And they've done it before. They've tried to do it before. So don't tell me the purity of the game and they're above such things. They're not. The question becomes, do they see that it's time to go that route?
Yep.
And
all right, that's going to wrap it up.
If they do after this game, Perk, then they might as well fire Mike and Chris too, because you can't ask Mike to pull the plug on the season.
Yeah, Chris too, huh? The rarely seen in-season GM. Yeah, I think the Jets might have been the last team to fire their GM in season a few years ago. So we'll see what happens. That's it for this edition of Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. That is Dave Hyde. I am Chris Perkins. We will come to you next week, Tuesday, noon. David Furones will be with us, so we will have our Furones bonus next week. Until then, take care. We'll see you.